More than 2.3 million Australians live in apartments. The number of people choosing high-rise living has jumped by 78% in 25 years. But what happens when your biggest investment becomes a disaster?
You've got better protection if you buy a toaster than if you buy a unit. If something does go wrong, there's really nobody to turn to.
We have an asset worth $1.5 million that right now is worth nothing.
We've just hit a brick wall and I can't see a way out of this at the moment.
As the spread of residential towers has grown, especially in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane, oversight and quality have lagged behind.
Build it quick, build it fast, sell it quick and move on to the next one. And the government has allowed that to happen. Well, welcome home. This is my beautiful apartment, my home in Opal Tower.
That is a remarkable view.
This is what we bought into.
Shadi Iskander finally returned to his apartment in Sydney's West 8 months after the building was evacuated.
We're excited to be home, but there's just uncertainty with what the future holds.
The New South Wales Government has ordered an urgent investigation into the structural integrity of the Opal Tower.
Residents of the crumbling Opal Tower were hoping for answers
inside Sydney's cracked Opal Tower.
Apartment block, the Opal Tower. More apartments are to be...
Christmas Eve 2018, an event that would shake the foundations of Australia's construction industry. After cracking sounds were heard, all 392 apartments were evacuated.
Oh, it's been devastating. I mean, financially it's been huge. There have been people in the tower who have wanted to sell and of course cannot sell. And so you can imagine you're going to the bank, you're saying to the bank, I'd like to borrow money. They say, okay, let me look at your assets. Oh, one of your assets is Opal Tower.
The Opal Tower was a significant event in the lifetime of the Australian construction industry. Not a fortunate event, but certainly caused everybody to step up. And that caused the bits on the surface to peel off.
Dean of Engineering at the University of New South Wales, Professor Mark Hoffman, co-authored an independent report into what went wrong at Opal. A change in designs meant a key structural element wasn't built to standard.
The beam was much weaker than it should have been and ultimately failed. In another place, there was similar sorts of situation but one beam failed. And what we found in that beam is that it had a lower strength concrete than the other beams.
The Opal report, released in February, makes a series of recommendations to the New South Wales Government. These include that all engineers that approve designs should be registered, designs are independently verified before construction starts, and that during construction a registered engineer makes critical stage on-site checking. Those recommendations are being considered by the government. The Opal builder Icon has so far spent $29 million on repairs and allowances.
It's over $500 million worth of work, this project, and several years of construction over about 14 separate phases. I would say that the building industry generally in Australia is actually world class, and I'd go as far as to say in some circumstances that the quality and safety that we're world leading in many respects. They're just such a complex industry, and I do think...
Multiplex CEO John Flecker says the confidence crisis in the industry has sent business towards the big companies.
We've had more inquiries, but we will price work at what we think it costs to deliver the quality that's required. And if the developer doesn't like the price we offer, we don't do the work.
But there must be some people out there doing the wrong thing.
There may be some bad apples, but I think it's more a case of probably in a circumstance where there is a lot of work in a boom situation in some states, that you just can't spread the appropriate skills and training far enough to deliver the product that needs to be delivered.
It's a grim situation for the owners at the 10-storey Mascot Towers in Sydney's south. Their building is more than a decade old, so the statutory warranty period has ended. It's up to them to fund repairs.
It's your home. It's everything that you've worked for, that you think is safe and that is protected.
I feel like it's a black hole with a never-ending siphon of money into it. And how we're going to get out of it is the worrying thing.
In June, the building was evacuated when cracking appeared in the basement.
I took early retirement with the view to using the money from Mascot Tower's rental money to fund that until I'm 60, that I can draw down my super. Well, that hasn't worked out that way.
Well, we did everything that I believe a responsible person would do. We absolutely did due diligence in inspecting the books and doing a visual inspection of the building.
So you've got the intersection of the path there.
Apartment owner Brian Tucker is a surveyor, but even his knowledge of the building industry didn't protect him when he bought into Mascot Towers.
And that should all line up with this because it's a straight line. Yeah.
At the moment we have a building that's, if we don't do anything, it's worth nothing. And unless we put money in to try and get some value back, we're left with an asset that is worthless.
Having just learnt that the cracks in their building are widening, owners will meet now to decide between a commercial strata loan or a multi-million-dollar levy to pay for urgent repairs. Stage 1 of the levy would cost around $7.7 million.
For 9 months, it's about $10,500 a month.
Where will you find that?
Out of super, out of some savings that we had that we retired on. Family will help us if we need be.
Andrew Burrell and his partner Alex Chan can't see how they will afford the payments.
It's just really bundled together, like we are sort of like on the Titanic. We're actually sinking together. We have no way to actually escape. The worst come to the worst. I think the only way that can find a way out is declare bankruptcy.
It's probably no surprise that there's been a drop in confidence in the high-rise residential sector, and that's affecting prices.
Well, a couple of years ago, the market was very different. Values were still rising, in fact, quite quickly.
730 can reveal a significant change in the value of off-the-plan projects in Sydney and Melbourne.
In Sydney, about 60% of off-the-plan apartments at the time of their settlement are valuing lower than the contract price. In Melbourne, it's closer to 50%, about 53%.
That means that for more buyers, the apartment is worth less on the day they settle than when they signed the contract. 2 years ago in Sydney, less than 16% of off-plan properties were selling below the contract value.
Why is that happening?
There's a whole lot of reasons. I mean, there's the organic factors around the fact that values have fallen over the past 2 years. Sydney's down 15%, Melbourne's down 11%. But there's also the fact that we have seen quite a significant oversupply in that high-rise sector of the marketplace.
Many in the industry believe the only answer is tougher, enforced regulations.
The new construction will be different than construction up till Opal, if you like. But that still leaves us with 500,000 four-storey plus units which have been built over the last 30 years, which are potentially defective.
Architect Jeff Hanmer has been in the industry for more than 30 years and says calls for an overhaul of regulations go back decades.
I just wish somebody would do something about this. We first started working on this issue in the 1990s, and since then things haven't got any better.
You've got defective buildings that are coming up, and what's it going to take? Does a wall have to fall on someone and injure human life in order for them to turn around and realise that we now need to regulate our industry? Changes need to happen. Your life does get turned upside down.
Back at Opal Tower, Shadi Iskander and his fellow residents are planning a legal class action in a bid to recoup their losses.
Do you feel safe in this building?
Well, let's be honest, you hear a little creaking, you hear a little bit of cracking, you know, your mind starts to question. Again, time will tell.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.